Doris Burke demoted by ESPN. Did they make the right call? Plus, an update on Russell Westbrook and the Sacramento Kings. And get this, Nikola Vucevic says it's time to give the Bulls a little patience. I'm Trevor Lane. This is the Basketball Bulletin. Make sure you do subscribe right here to the channel. You need to make sure you do that so you can stay up to date on all things NBA. Joining me is Donnie Freeman. Donnie, Doris, kind of a good day and a bad day for Doris Burke here. She's getting demoted by ESPN off of their number one broadcast team in favor of Tim Legler, but she's also getting a contract extension with ESPN. So first, let's talk about the demotion. Should Doris Burke have been removed from the number one broadcast team? And that would then mean she won't be on the finals and things like that. You're already laughing. You're already laughing.
Well, here's the thing. I think most of the internet, because I didn't really see this sentiment really pick up until like the last couple of years. I didn't typically really mind her being on too much, especially like a while ago, years back. It was actually for me kind of refreshing to have her on some of the I was gonna say podcasts, some of the games, live coverages, especially relative to some of the other guys that were on at the time. I didn't really particularly care much for them, so maybe that just helped her case. But over the last couple of years, I do know that she's been getting a lot of negative sentiment online, and as a result, sure, I can see it, right? I can see why, and with that being the case and public opinion swaying so much on her, I do think that it's probably for the best.
Well, from what I've seen, and the general responses on social media have been that she hates my team, and it's been remarkable how many fan bases think that.
Yeah,
how many fan bases
online,
think
right?
Yeah,
everybody hates their specific team, but that's just the way it is. Like, they cover all these teams and they talk about all these guys, and it's not that they hate anybody in particular. I don't think so.
I have a theory on this. I think what happens, and look, I do notice when Doris Burke calls a Lakers game, for example, I notice she spends a lot, especially if it's Lakers Warriors, she spends a lot of time talking up the Warriors, not a lot of time talking about the Lakers.
But she also spends a lot of time being very complimentary to LeBron, too.
She does. But here's what I think is happening. I think that we are so used to watching the regional local broadcast, which presents the game through the vantage point of a fan of that specific team, that you go and listen to a nationally televised game and you hear somebody praising the other team, and it's jarring. And it's upsetting. It's unsettling, because if you are invested in that game and you really want your team to win, you don't want to hear good shit about the other team. And
hey,
so
whoa,
I think that
whoa.
What?
Don't do that.
Don't do what?
Don't do that. You can't just throw an S-bomb like that. That's not the Trevor Lane I know.
This is the Basketball Bulletin. I own this. I can do whatever I want here.
You see what I deal with? You see how X-rated he is on this channel? Is it actually R-rated?
Yeah, I think that's R-rated.
Yeah, R-rated.
Going a little too far.
You see?
Otherwise, it's a very different kind of channel. YouTube would not be happy with us at all.
Move on.
But I do think there's an effect there where it can be jarring. And Doris does go out of her way to talk about both sides of the basketball, both teams. And so I think that can lead, because I was surprised by how many fans of different teams feel like she hates their team. And I think that's just that element of it playing out. Like, I think that people are just used to hearing their own local broadcast and not the national broadcast, not hearing good stuff about the other team. That said, Tim Legler is awesome. And so even if there is maybe too much negativity, and look, everybody in the comments, let me know what you think about Doris Burke. Is she awful? Is she good? Where do you stand on her? But let me know in the comment section. But Tim Legler is very, very good. And I think even if we take away the maybe jarring effect of hearing the national broadcast praise both teams, Tim Legler is a very, very good analyst and does a great job. So I can't look at this and say this is the wrong move, because Legler's great.
Yeah, Tim's awesome. Like, I have been wanting for him to get more coverage for a long time, and this is really cool. And I'm hopeful that with him on, they can't really because they still have to cater to a certain specific demographic. They can't really get too deep into the weeds on it, but I hope that they explore that end of it a little bit more. And you actually brought up a really good point with the team-centric broadcasts, because a lot, and that's a whole other thing, because another thing I saw over the last couple of years is people being critical of their own team broadcast, like with the Lakers and stuff like that. Like, because if you're not super homer about the team you're covering from the broadcast perspective, then your fan base is like, why are they saying nice things about this other team? I don't care about that team. We're trying to beat that team. Don't say anything nice about them. And people get really mad at that too. So,
but if you go the other way, then people get mad about that. People go, oh, they're just homers, right?
Some of those are fun though, because like the Charlotte crew is like, maybe it's just the
funny
charisma there, but they're really good. And then some of them are like super duper, what's the word? I don't know how to say it, but they're
top.
Very no. They're very I don't know. They almost sound salty to me. Like when I listen to them, they sound like they're really mad at the other team, especially if their team is losing. And I think that's interesting too, right? Because for the fans that are a fan of that team, that may be an accurate portrayal of the way that they feel. So maybe they resonate well with that. But sometimes I listen to them, I'm like, man, I don't like watching other teams broadcast because they just are so critical of everything and they sound pissed off.
It is an experience jumping around League Pass. You get to get exposed to all these other broadcasts, and you get to hear. Usually, what I find, Donnie, is I appreciate the local broadcast more when I jump around and I hear other teams.
Yeah.
I get annoyed by them a little bit.
Yeah, more. I don't like listening to the opposing team's broadcast on a team that I'm trying to watch in whatever game it is, because oftentimes they're not very partial to that team. And maybe that's why, from a general sense, the ESPNs of the world, where they have to be more neutral across the board, they can potentially get more of that. But some of these guys that they get on there on ESPN or TNT are just flat out not received well. And some of them, like Reggie, was like, I didn't have a problem so much with Reggie, but he was very openly rooting for the Pacers.
Yes.
so like, you can't really have too much of that either the other way when you're doing the broadcasts and stuff.
And what
some
of the
guys over the years, right? Some of the guys over the years also weren't particularly great. I wasn't very on what was his name? The Kings guy, Chris Webber from a few years back. Him either. So, it just depends. Different strokes, different folks.
Yep. All right. Let's take a timeout in honor of Chris Webber and move over to the latest on Russell Westbrook and the aforementioned Sacramento Kings. I thought this was interesting.
Oh, that's a good segue.
Yeah, that's right. I'm a professional. From Sam Amick, said the odds of a Russell Westbrook signing go up if the Kings know they are completely out on Jonathan Kuminga. So we had thought Jonathan Kuminga is really just holding up Al Horford, DeAnthony Melton, Seth Curry, maybe Malcolm Brogdon, been kind of loosely linked to the Warriors as well. Gary GP2, Gary Payton II. Now it seems like the Jonathan Kuminga situation might actually be holding up Russell Westbrook too. Although Amick does again reiterate that the Kings need to move a guard before they sign Russell Westbrook. Donnie, we're looking like it's sounding more and more like things need to happen for Russ to even land with the Kings. And if it's not them, it's not anywhere else.
Isn't
that crazy?
That's insane. We had a video a few days ago where we talked about something similar, and we talked about how Russ could potentially be out of the league if basically Kings or bust. Yeah. And you asked the question, like, is it surprising, or can you see Russ out of the league? And I was like, man, I can't really see it because he's been around for just so long, and ultimately everybody's time comes, right? But he's been around for so long. It's just an NBA without Russ isn't the same from what I remember, but he's at a point now where while I still think he's an NBA level player, I think he needs very specific play styles around him and things like that really limit the places he can go. Some teams may not also want to invest in him for other reasons, like maybe he wants an outsized role other than what they're trying to offer him. And ultimately, you have a situation where Sacramento is the only team that's really in on him at this point, and they don't really need him either. I don't really understand why they want him in the first place, if I'm being honest. But
are they just trying to sell tickets?
Ball, like that, yeah, okay. That's
what
I said last time. Like I can see that too. If Russ lighting the beam would be cool. Like that'd be awesome. Yeah. That'll go triple platinum on social media. Like I'm not even mad at it. But I don't. It's just we're at that point now with him where I guess right. Like he may just he may just not be able to make it anymore. But ultimately, one thing I did say in that video, and this again, I think is probably the best case, is okay, it may not be the worst thing if he doesn't latch onto a team right now, because he can survey the field. He can get to the point where he is one of the more coveted buyout guys on the market, or just free agents around that time period where they're looking at buyouts into the playoff area. He could pick a team and then potentially play a meaningful role there. You never know who could go down. You never know how the standings are shaking out, and he could get some time off, rehab any injuries. That could be a blessing in disguise ultimately for him. But that's a very optimistic viewpoint, I guess.
So he could come in midway through the season as essentially a super sub, right? Coming into just pouring gasoline on the fire of some team.
I said buyout because I'm used to that being the buyout period, but he would technically be a free agent.
He would be a free agent. Right.
Yeah, he could operate the same way. Come in at that period and just potentially join a good team.
All right. Well, let's go from the Sacramento Kings to the Kings East, and that's the Chicago Bulls here. The Chicago Bulls, though, Nikola Vucevic is saying, don't call us the Kings East. We're making really good moves. He says, when I first got there, we had Lonzo, Caruso, Vooch, DeMar. I thought it was a very good team. It just didn't work out after that. Sometimes it's hard to figure out what to do next. Really hard, apparently. We had a lot of injuries and other challenges, but overall, I think he has done a good job. Now they have decided to go with slightly younger players. They did a good job in the draft as well. Modest Buzelis, by the way, I'm really excited to see him this season. He really came out strong at the end of last year. He said, I think it's understandable that fans want results right away, but sometimes you need to be patient. Overall, I think he's done some pretty good things. Donnie, I want to throw something. No, Vooch. Fans don't want results right away. Fans don't need to win right away, if that's what he's meaning. Fans just want to know where they're going. They just want to know what the play. Look at how many Sixers fans got in on trust the process. You don't have to win right away. You don't have to get results on the floor right away. Fans just want to know that there's a plan, and that the plan is not, we're going to take a little extra playoff revenue from being the 10 seed or the 9 seed or the 8 seed year after year, call it a day, and then go home. Fans want hope for something better. That's what they want, not necessarily results right away. And I think the Bulls, kind of similar to the Kings in a way, again, Kings East, have hesitated to rip the Band-Aid off and fully go in this youth rebuild mode. I think they've made some very questionable decisions where they could have gotten future assets and instead prioritized the now, and a very short-sighted and very early exited playoff run.
Yeah, I think that's very apparent that they decided to do that. But, I think so much of that just hinges on the fact Lonzo got hurt, because if Lonzo doesn't go down,
they were fun for a little bit there.
They were really good for that first stint. So I can see wanting to invest more in that, but I guess they could have pulled the plug sooner, and they certainly could have gotten better stuff when they decided to pull the plug on some of this stuff. But yeah, I don't know if the team's fans were expecting them to win right now. Maybe they were a few years ago, because again, with that team, if you invested it at that point, they don't get hurt. Maybe you have something, especially in the Eastern Conference, but ultimately that's not the world we live in. So yeah, I think they just want to see a direction, and they want to see you accumulate assets instead of just shipping these guys out and not really getting many back. So that's part of why I think Giddey in particular, he is somebody that's interesting, because while they have other young pieces that they're invested in and stuff like that, I think he is somebody that they're going to be investing in for the long term and trying to really build this thing out around him. And so they could potentially be pretty good. I'm not saying he would be your 1A guy, but they could potentially be pretty good if they add other pieces around, get a couple nice draft picks, figure out what to do with the other guards that they have as well on the roster, and kind of go from there. So I think there's a blueprint here. They've just still got a few other pieces like Vucevic that they need to get rid of.
Well, and I think the Patrick Williams contract has looked like a mistake. They do have, so you can see the flexibility in their contracts moving forward, with Vooch will come off the books, Zach Collins, right? But it just feels like this needed to be a rip the Band-Aid off situation, and they've just kind of like slowly tugged at it. You know what I mean? They've taken an hour to take that Band-Aid off, just painstakingly, a little bit at a time, rather than just ripping the thing off and going full rebuild mode. But nonetheless, I do think there are some interesting young talents. Modest Buzelis being one. I already talked about him. You mentioned Josh Giddey. like there's something here in Chicago. I don't particularly love the Isaac Okoro move for them with Lonzo Ball, but I mean, just take it on the money for next year. But I just you want to see a plan. You want to feel like look at Brooklyn. Brooklyn is going to be awful this year, but they've got a bunch of picks moving forward. We know what they're doing. We know what they're trying to do. We can argue whether or not, taking on Michael Porter Jr. was the best decision. We'll see. It depends on how he plays this year. But at least there's a plan. And okay, this is what this team is. This is what this team is trying to do. With the Bulls, it's like we know what the plan should be, but they just haven't fully committed to it. It's like with the Kings. We know what the plan should. It's Kings East. We know what the Kings need to do. They just don't want to do it.
I was quite literally just gonna say that's why you call them Kings East, because it's the exact same thing where it's like they just want to remain in that like play-in range if possible, and then go from there. And they're not ripping the Band-Aid off and just doing it. Now, I think the Kings maybe are more justified in it because of the crazy long drought that they went through. But yeah, with both of these teams, you need to just make these moves. And it takes two to tango. Maybe there's not the right deals in front of them. We don't know the inner workings of all of it. Maybe there's not the right deals in front of them. But if you are offered those deals, I think the onus is on you to accept these offers or maybe put out these offers to make them happen, to figure out what your next step is as opposed to just treading water.
And Donnie, the Bulls need the basketball gods to smile upon them a little bit too. I mean, some of the decisions they've made have been self-inflicted, but I mean, look at what was probably the best moment, certainly one of the best moments of the Bulls season last year, was that Josh Giddey buzzer beater from
I was just
three-quarters court against our Lakers.
Yeah.
But they wound up being one win over what would have landed them the ping pong balls that would have netted Cooper Flag.
They would have got number one if they didn't make that. Or if they didn't win another game, because they won a few games.
Yes, they won a few. So you could point to any game I guess they won over the course of the season, but that was the one that sticks out because it was so improbable. Like Josh Giddey misses that shot, and the Bulls have Cooper Flag right now. That's and that was like certainly one of the best moments of the season for the Bulls. And it was celebrating. This is amazing, and how incredible is this? And then the ping pong balls hit, and you go, oh my God. One win away from having Cooper Flag. Oh my God.
Yeah, that's insanely unlucky. Crazy unlucky. So yeah, if they could get a lucky lottery pick, I don't know if it needs to be number one overall, but just one of those top few picks.
Wouldn't hurt.
That would really be a good step in the right direction. Really quick, do they have their first round picks? I assume that they do, right?
I believe so.
I don't know why they would be out unless they're from a trade previous. So that would be pretty huge for them if they have those picks available to them, so they can get more, bites at the apple. But they also need to just kind of bottom out, so that'd be helpful too.
Yeah, I'm looking at Chicago right now over here on Spot Track's handy dandy tracker here for future draft capital. Oh no!
Is it Levine?
They owe a pick to the Spurs. I believe that's got to be from the. Is that from DeRozan?
DeRozan, yeah,
that's got to be from DeRozan.
Yeah, I was thinking they probably gave up some picks for that era of the Bulls that didn't last very long.
Yeah, the Bulls pick will go to it looks like it's top 8 protected here for Chicago.
Not too bad.
They get the Blazers pick is lottery protected to the Bulls, so there's that. If not, they can get it the next year. Their pick looks like top 8 protected in 2027 as well. So they really need to bottom this thing. They could end up giving they could give a lottery pick to the Spurs.
Yeah.
If they're not careful here. They really
we don't need that to happen either. Just don't give the Spurs any more lottery
My
picks.
God. I did. That was a good call by you. I did not realize that pick was encumbered like that.
Yeah.
Bulls. And
Watch,
Donnie. They're going to finish with the 10th worst record in the league.
Dude, if that happens, they're cursed, man. They're just absolutely cursed.
They're gonna. Well,
they could end 10th and still bounce to top 8, though. To be fair,
they could, but I'm saying if you finish, but you would obviously feel you're gonna keep your pick if you finish with the 3rd worst record or something.
Yeah. Of course, you'd have a pretty good shot at number 1 overall. You want to finish at the bottom.
Here's what's going to happen, Donnie. Here's what's going to happen. This is the Chicago Bulls in a nutshell. Here's what's going to happen. They are going to have an opportunity to trade Nikola Vucevic for like 3 or 4 seconds at the trade deadline. They're going to decline so that they can make the playoffs. They're going to finish with the 10th worst record, and they're going to end up giving the 9th pick in the draft to the San Antonio Spurs.
Oh my God.
That's what they're going to do. And then Vucevic is going to walk for nothing in the summer.
Why are you cursing them like that? I have to
because
fact check, but I'm pretty sure that's what they did.
Drummond.
Right? I knew it. I was like, that sounds so familiar.
That's exactly what they did. They had multiple seconds on the table for Andre Drummond. They said, no, we want to keep him and make a playoff push. Like 3 months later, he's gone.
You have to learn from that. You have to have learned from that, right? Like that. That's one of those ones where we're talking about, like, on the margins, they need to make these moves. If they're presented to you, what are you holding on to Drummond for? Like, what are you doing?
Kings East. Come on, Bulls. All right, everybody. We appreciate all of you for joining us here on the channel. Make sure you do subscribe, turn on those notifications as well. Check out the podcast feed also over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. Till next time, everybody. See ya and stay safe.